Hello everyone, this is Nick. So almost everyone wonders about what teachers' jobs are like. Fortunately for everyone wondering, I had the chance to interview some teachers here at Pittsburgh. Hope y'all enjoy the stories these fine teachers are going to share.
I was only a little older than my students, and then realizing I had to be in charge of people who were basically my age and assuming that responsibility, it actually took me many years until I was able to say, no, it's your job to call the shots and be the person in charge.
The first 2 years I taught, I didn't have air conditioning, and so it was like a really hot school to teach at. Yeah, and then we've had a few tornadoes and a few other times where we, lost power for the day or that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are some of the memories I have of really strange events.
I've never had an experience that made me want to quit, but I did have an experience where I was like, no more. I taught summer school one summer when I was teaching at Missouri State, and it was a lot of work, and then I got the paycheck, and I was like, no thank you, I'm not going to do that again.
My first year of teaching, about 20 years ago, I had a big fight in my classroom, and that was kind of a startling moment, but outside of that, no, never had an experience in the classroom that's made me want to quit.
So my second year teaching, I had a student who was on the basketball team as her coach. She wasn't there and wasn't able to play in the game, and her dad, that was a board member, locked me in my room for 3 hours and yelled at me and made me question my decision as to why I really wanted to teach. So that would be my probably the closest I have come to second guessing.
First year mistake was talking while people were talking. That thing I mentioned to you about not wanting to be in charge. So I would say, hey, it's time to be quiet, and then they wouldn't be quiet, and I would just talk loudly over them. And the result was people weren't listening. And that took several years before I realized, no, you need to get complete quiet before you start talking. Made a huge difference.
Mistake I made my first year. Honestly, I would work 10, 11, 12 hours a day. And I just didn't learn how to stop working. And the best advice I ever got was from a fellow teacher my first year of teaching, and he said the work will always continue and you just need to learn to stop and go home and have a life outside of teaching. And so, that was one of the best lessons I learned as a teacher.
That mistake was the school district at the time had never hired first-year teachers, and there were 2 of us that were hired as first-year teachers, but they hadn't hired anybody in 30 years that were first-year teachers, so they ran a spread in the city newspaper. And once they realized I was a first-year teacher, it ruined everything because they realized how close in age they were to me and decided that I was too young to be a teacher. And so it made classroom discipline and management very, very difficult. So if I could go back, I would not have done that interview.
That's a great question. I think that there wasn't a moment, but both of my parents were educators. I grew up being in school when other people weren't in school, like for speech tournaments and for practices and rehearsals for theater and stuff like that. And school always kind of felt like home to me. Part of the reason I got a PhD was because I didn't want to be done with school yet. And teaching was a way to stay home, if you will, given that this place always felt like where I needed to be. Still feels like that a lot of times. I just feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing.
Every day is different, and I do like that about teaching. The kids come in different, they act different, we interact differently. I've had great students over the last 20 years, and that has made the job fun. And so it's just interacting with kids made me realize I really enjoy doing this.
That happens every year when I have a student or a parent that finds me and a student maybe writes me a note and tells me thank you, or a parent will recognize the hard work that I've done and say thank you, or when light bulbs go off and kids get it, they've struggled, and they get a smile on their face because they finally understand. So it's the little things that students do to remind me why I do this job, and I appreciate all the little notes they leave or the words of encouragement and encouragement from parents. That's what's kept me doing it.